Good morning from the beach town of Hikkaduwa, Sri Lanka. Today we're gonna go on a day trip to the historic city of Galle. So let's go find a bus. Alright, we are now in the center of Hikkaduwa here, and the bus station is just a 5-minute walk into that direction. And yeah, the town of Galle or Galle or Galle, I am not actually sure how to pronounce it, is just about 15 kilometers away from here. So we should find a local bus. This looks like a bus station, and I think they all go to Galle because it is basically just one main road. Let's see. I think this bus is gonna get very full, which is why it is good that I boarded right here at the beginning. But yeah, look at this bus. Really nicely decorated. And it kind of looks like a mix of retro bus and Need for Speed. Guys, welcome to Galle. That is actually how it is pronounced, because I heard the bus driver saying it. So yeah, let's head to the old town. Alright, we are now at the walls of the fort. I just want to check out this congregation right here. Man, there is so much trash. I guess this is some kind of school cricket event. And here are the buses, just like the one that I just took. And yeah, I don't know how old these buses are, but they look like they are 50 years old at least. And here we have the walls of the Dutch fort, and I will explain the history of this place in a minute. I first want to enter the old town and find some shade. Alright, we are now inside the Dutch fort here, the historic old town of Galle. And yeah, I will explain the history later. Just know that this fort is over 350 years old, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And yeah, here you can see lots of restaurants and coffee shops. I think I'm actually gonna have some coffee after this bus journey. The bus journey took about 45 minutes. And yeah, it wasn't the most comfortable bus. So I'm gonna walk the historic streets of Galle here, and this whole area isn't all that big. So I think that in a few hours I'll be able to walk every street. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about the history of this very fascinating town. So the city of Galle has been a trading port for many centuries. Before the year 1500, lots of empires were trading here, including the Chinese and the Arabs. Let's walk onto the fortress wall here and see what the view is like. I do have to walk into the other direction because it is a bit too bright over there. So yeah, here you can see some of the historic buildings in Galle. So yeah, many empires and seafaring nations used this city as a trading port, and even the Greeks and Romans may have been here, but that is debatable. Anyways, one person who was definitely here is Ibn Battuta, one of the most famous Muslim explorers who lived in the 14th century. So yeah, after that, in the 16th century, the Portuguese captured this area and built some fortifications. But about 100 years later, they lost Galle to the Dutch. And then the Dutch built this fort right here in 1663. So you can see that there are plenty of fortifications, plenty of bastions to defend the city from pirates and invaders. But of course, the champions of colonization, the British, they managed to invade this place and take it over in 1796. So the British, they conquered the city and the island and then made it a colony, and they actually kept the Dutch fort and used it as an administrative center. And now here you can see that this fort is absolutely massive. It starts over there, which is where I entered, and then it continues all the way down there. I am pretty sure that the camera doesn't do it justice, but I thought that you could walk this entire fort in maybe an hour or so, but I don't think so. It would definitely take a bit more time. And you have views over the ocean everywhere. Pretty cool place. This reminds me a bit of Famagusta, Cyprus, which is also a fortress on an island. This time in the Mediterranean, of course. Not sure if there's something to see here or just the rocks. It is nice and windy. I guess that is why people are standing here. But yeah, over there you can see the walls, and then you have different types of fortifications, like bastions and places to put the cannons. And then I am not sure if this part is some kind of no man's land between the walls and the actual city, but yeah, that might be the case. So yeah, this is the old town of Galle, and then the city is behind the fortress walls there. And the city is actually quite large. Here we have some cannons. Not sure if these are original. They might be. It isn't really written anywhere. But yeah, let's continue. There is actually a Buddhist temple over there. Sri Lanka is obviously majority Buddhist, which is one of the main differences with India, which is majority Hindu. And yeah, I talked a bit more about that in my first video in Hikkaduwa. So yeah, you can see that these bastions, they have this triangular shape to work as defensive fortifications. And then here the former signal station, I guess. Right, so I am now walking the streets here. I will actually do a loop of the fortress wall, but on the other side, because then I'm gonna walk into the other direction and the lighting will be much better for you guys in the video. But yeah, the architecture here is spectacular. So most of these buildings are from the 18th and 19th centuries, and many of them were really nicely restored. And then you have some hotels and guest houses in this old town here. But I decided not to stay here because I am not really sure if there's anything going on here at night. There might be, but I thought that staying in Hikkaduwa might be the better choice, because you can easily do a day trip here, 40 minutes by bus, or a tuk-tuk would take around 25 minutes maybe. This kind of looks like some colonial town in the Caribbean, but it has its own style as well. this right here is actually the main street, I think. I mean, yeah, in terms of picturesque streets, you will not be disappointed in Galle or Galle. And one thing that I really like here is that apart from a few tuk-tuks and bikes, it is actually relatively quiet for Sri Lanka standards. Most places in this country are extremely loud, mostly because of the tuk-tuks and, you know, the horns and stuff from the cars and bikes. But here it is actually a bit quieter. Not super quiet, but very pleasant. And obviously beautiful architecture, colorful houses, palm trees. Yeah, this is one of those places where you can just get lost and walk the streets. There are a few museums and a lighthouse, which I'm gonna check out later, and then obviously the fortress walls. But apart from that, the main attraction here is the old town, the architecture. And this right here is the main Galle lighthouse, but I am not sure if it is still in operation. Probably not. But it says 1938. Might still be in operation. Thank you. So yeah, 1938. And then there is some kind of house next to it. Might still be in use. Now this is an interesting building. This is actually a mosque. I know that from the Arabic writing and also the crescent, but then it looks like a church. So it might have been converted. I am not sure. Also, I don't know how sizable the Muslim community is here. But yeah, they are renovating it right now. Really interesting. And then here you can see the fortress wall once again. Now, what I really like about these places, not just this city right here, but colonial cities in exotic locations, if I can call it that, in general, is that they do have some European influence, which is obviously very visible by the architecture, but then they also have their own unique charm, and that makes them very singular. It really has its own style in terms of how the city is set up and how it looks today, even though it was built by the Dutch and then obviously modernized by the British. I think this is the main viewpoint here, because there are lots of people here. Let's go check out the viewpoint. I guess this is the best view in Galle. Oh, thank you. Wanted to sell me Dutch coins. What the heck am I gonna do with Dutch coins? And now we are arriving at the main viewpoint here. Nice view. You can see the lighthouse and the mosque, and of course the ocean here. And then on the other side, the fortress wall, and then a tiny little beach there. Nice viewpoint. Here we have the Ministry of Tea. I guess you get some very good tea there. Sri Lanka is obviously famous for tea, so this used to be called Ceylon, the country of Sri Lanka when it was a British colony. And even today, the tea is still called Ceylon, I think, because you can buy a lot of Ceylon tea all over the world. So yeah, I am not a massive tea drinker. I generally prefer coffee, but I will definitely buy some tea here before returning to Europe. So yeah, this is really one of those cities where you can just walk the streets. There aren't all that many places to see here. There are a few museums, and then of course the fortifications, but yeah, you can definitely see this old town in one afternoon. But do not skip this place if you are in Sri Lanka. It is very pretty. Can you see it? So you do see quite a lot of lizards here, but this one was definitely the biggest I've seen so far. Let's go have a look at this church. Built in 1755 during the Dutch period.